Why, hello, my pretties. I don't do book hauls very often because I don't buy a lot of books. For one thing, I'm a little bit poor, and I also work in a library, so I have access to a lot of books. So I use the library for a lot of my reading, and when I do buy books, it's just every once in a while and not really enough for a book haul. But this month in May, I had a little extra money to spend for my birthday money from last month, and there was a Scholastic warehouse sale here where I live, and I splurged a little bit and bought some books. Some of them are books that I've already read a long time ago, some of them are books that I've been wanting to read, and some are books that I have just read this month since buying them. First up, I bought all of the books in the Lunar Chronicles series by Marissa Meyer, or at least the ones that are out so far. I got Cinder, the first book, which is a retelling of Cinderella. It's sci-fi. She's a cyborg, in case you can't tell from this beautiful, gorgeous cover. I love the cover. The second book is Scarlet, which continues Cinder's story but also brings in a character named Scarlet who is like Little Red Riding Hood. Once again, a beautiful cover. And the third book is Cress, which brings in the character of Rapunzel. Anyway, I really loved these books. You guys have been telling me to read them for forever because I love fairy tale retellings, and I've just kind of been putting it off, mostly because I'm a rebel, and I was like, everyone thinks I like it, so I don't want to read it, because I'm silly sometimes. But I finally read them, and I'm obsessed with them, so thank you to everyone who recommended them. I can't wait for winter to come out this November. Like I said, I love these covers. I love the red motif. They're gorgeous, and I love the interior formatting. It's so pretty. I love the font that's used. It's very sci-fi. I don't know. I just love everything about these books. Next up is a book that I haven't read yet, but I've meant to read for a long time because it's fairly famous and I feel like I should read it eventually, and it just looks and sounds pretty cool, and it is The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern. Once again, really cool cover, and the interior is really awesome. I love this whole thing. I don't know, it all looks really cool. I've noticed that I've been noticing interior formatting a lot more lately. I blame Erica Crouch because she kind of is obsessed with it, and I think she got me obsessed with it, but just look at the constellation. It's so cool. Next up, I have a couple more books that I haven't read yet but have been meaning to for a long time, and that is Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children and Hollow City by Ransom Riggs. Once again, on this theme of formatting and covers, everything about the design of this book is cool, from the cover to the wallpaper pages for the chapters to, of course, all of the creepy pictures that this book is based around. It just is a cool looking book, so even if I never get around to reading it, I'll just be happy to have it on my shelf. And there's one more book that I bought that I haven't read yet, and that is Etiquette and Espionage by Gail Carriger. I haven't really read any real steampunk. I mean, I've read The Infernal Devices by Cassandra Clare, and I've read Susan Dennard's Something Strange and Deadly series, but I'm excited to read this. I'm excited to kind of delve into this genre because it's always kind of fascinated me. Design-wise, I love that this book kind of has the motif of gears because it's steampunk. Even in the background of the cover you can see them, and on the chapter headers there's little gears on there if you can see them. I'm not sure if you can. And even the page numbers are surrounded by gears. It's really cool looking. And speaking of the Infernal Devices, I bought Clockwork Angel and Clockwork Prince. Now, I've already read both of these books. I read them when they first came out, but I just don't own copies of them. I have all of the Mortal Instruments. I get them mixed up. I have all the Mortal Instruments books, but I just never bought these ones, even though I like these better than the Mortal Instruments. So if you maybe have never been able to get into the City of Bones books, you can definitely check these ones out because I think they're really cool. I like the historicness of them, which you don't get in the other series. And I just, those covers. Well, this one's marred by a sticker that I have to try and get off for the movie. But they're really pretty covers, and I'm just excited to have them so that I can maybe reread them one day. I can recommend them to people and just have them on my shelf because I really like them. Next up is a book that came out this month, and probably none of you will be surprised that I bought Sarah J. Maas's new book, A Court of Thorns and Roses. And of course I bought it the day it came out, and I had it finished by the end of the next day. It was really, really good. I definitely recommend it. Even if you haven't read the Throne of Glass books, this book is completely independent. It can be your introduction to Sarah J. Maas because it's really, really wonderful. And it has a beautiful cover. Look at that cover. It's got some really beautiful men as well as a really, really great story. It's a good sort of retelling of Beauty and the Beast, but it's more inspired by Beauty and the Beast. And what about interior formatting, you ask? Well, this book has thorns on all the chapter pages, and I love them. It's beautiful. And of course, what's always really exciting in a fantasy book, if I can find it, there's a map. And that makes every book better. And last but definitely not least, this month at the book sale I bought Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. Now, before you think that I'm a really terrible Harry Potter fan and don't own all of them, I actually did have a copy of this, but it was old, I had read it a lot, and pages started falling out because the spine is so big that it couldn't hold all the pages. Anyway, so when I moved, I decided it was time to donate that copy and get a new copy because it's really hard to read a book when pages are falling out. And since I've been talking about interior formatting a lot today, Harry Potter has a pretty basic formatting, but one of my favorite things about the American edition are the chapter pictures. This one's, I think, Bill and Charlie Weasley setting up the tables at the Weasley's house. I don't think you get these in the British/Canadian versions. I know there's a lot of you out there. And this is just one of my favorite little extra things we get in our edition. I think they're really cool. I always loved them as a kid. And you know, before we had Harry Potter movies, which is weird to think of the time before we had the movies, but I do remember that time, those little chapter pictures were the images that my imagination of the world were built around. Anyway, those are the books that I bought this month. What have you bought or read this month? Have you read any of these books that I bought, and what do you think of them? And speaking of buying books this month, today, May 26th, Polaris Awakening is being released. It is an anthology from Patchwork Press. It's science fiction. It takes place aboard a spaceship for the most part. And you can find short stories by 4 of the WordNerds in it. I think it's like $3 for the ebook, I'm pretty sure, don't quote me on that. But you should definitely check it out. We're going to be talking about it this Sunday for our book club live chat, kind of having a little bit of a release party. So check out the anthology and join us this Sunday at 7:30 Eastern Time.